Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.
Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel the Cat, and I've got my beautiful co-host Evan Reynolds at REV. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 5, Evan? Or Episode 4?
Episode 5, man.
Episode 5.
You are right.
My mind works. It's all over the place. I am dealing with a sick child, so I apologize. My game is off. Normally, it's at the level that Evan wants it to be. Clearly, tonight, it's not at that level. So welcome. We got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. But just before we get started, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Give us a follow on Facebook. Give us a follow on YouTube. We appreciate it. We have a website with JR Web Design. We're going to be talking about a few of the articles. They do great work, Evan. Some of the KHL articles we got up there, we can talk about it. Go check it out. Patrick Conaway, our KHL writer, he does amazing work. You've got some articles there, especially on your prospects coming up, which is fantastic. Really breaks it down, especially when you're talking about your Rev Top 15. We are partnered up with Sports Empire. We appreciate all the guys there. Freddie, Kyle, Gene, everyone over there. You guys, we love you, Key. You're incredible. All your sporting goods and all your sporting needs, they got you covered. And
hey,
one of the greatest rock bands ever.
Yes.
Oh, you're not even going to let me finish. The greatest rock bands ever out of Arizona, the famous Coyotes. We've got Penny Billionaires as our theme song, as you guys have heard. It's an incredible hard rock band. Give them a shout. Give them a follow. They are on Spotify, Apple Music. They're on CD Baby. Go check it out. They've got some good tunes. I dig it. I dig the album. Evan, how you doing?
Also, our newest partnership just came through. Just a couple final touches. We're going to be giving up some promos for you guys to kind of know more about the Michigan. So if you're from Michigan, we're going to be getting some Michigan folks in. So make sure you give them some love. They've been coming in. So we get a lot of fans, just so everyone knows, especially from the southern United States. So we get a lot of Nevada. By the way, Nevada is our #1 state for followers of Two Guys and Hockey Talk. Across the board, you guys have rocked it. So I don't know if we got a bunch of Canadians that have moved south that love these Canadian Western boys, or if you guys just are so passionate about hockey with your team, the the Vegas Golden Knights. I wish they had been called the Las Vegas. I don't know. I like saying lost, not as in lost, but as in Las Vegas. Anyway, the Michigan Independence Hockey League is our newest. So it is owned and operated by a disabled veteran. They are play out of, it's called the Coliseum in Kalkaska, Michigan. They are a member of the Michigan Independence Hockey League. It's in its 4th year. This is Kalkaska's inaugural season. So if you are following from Kalkaska, we want to say a big welcome. I know your season is a few weeks away. We will also have some writers coming in, writing around the Michigan Independence Hockey League, because we want to know more about that, as well as we have another guy. So Tanner, if you're out there, I need you to connect up with me. I know we've been having some links. We are also going to be talking more about the North American Hockey League in the United States. Pavel's just dropping stuff in the background. He's so excited to hear the news around the North American Hockey League with Tanner Wilson out of the great state of Texas. We've had a lot of new fans coming out of there. So New York has been the newest surge for a lot of viewers and fans coming in. So I just want to say, guys, welcome from wherever you're from. And by the way, Australia, interesting enough, they had a game out there. It was over 13,000 plus fans. And Pavel, it's so exciting to be able to say, what do you mean you didn't know they had fans there? We got them watching our show all the way from Australia to watch two guys in hockey talk because they are in love with the game of hockey. Cheers. Hang on.
I'm
cheers.
Sure they appreciated. Cheers. I'm sure they appreciated the exhibition matches between the Arizona Coyotes and the Los Angeles Kids because that was pretty fun. And can I just say, Evan, how good did Logan Cooley look in that opener with that probably one of the best goals this year so far of the season? Your thoughts on that, Logan Cooley?
Oh, man, the way he came up that wing there and just kind of – so, it's interesting. You got to give Logan, his props, man, for coming in and really showing his game early. A lot of people didn't think he was even going to make it into the NHL this year and play. They thought he was going back to university. So, good on him, good timing. I kind of questioned it. I thought with all the turmoil and the team and not getting the arena deal and all the stuff that was happening, we'd work around that. Oh, by the way, just while I'm mentioning that right now, I want to apologize if you're finding us on other venues. Right now, we've been dealing with Facebook problems. So send something to Mark Zuckerberg, dealing with Meta. They keep blocking us. Meta keeps blocking us. So right now, if you're following on a different venue, check us out. Go over to either the Sports Empire Network, catch us on Facebook and or on YouTube over there, and follow through our Twitter feeds as well as my personal Facebook you can get on. I'm going to try and reconnect that in a few minutes. But yeah, so Logan Cooley, man, the guy is fabulous. I think that they got a gem there. I'm looking forward to really seeing him be able to line up right now. I actually didn't get the game, pay attention. I saw the highlights. Who did he line up with? Did he get Gunther or did they give him some veterans on his line?
Well, they changed it up to other game, but Gunther did play with him for a little bit. But, of course, during the preseason, they try to get different looks there. So they were changing it up a little bit, seeing what he did at different lines and different levels. So he clearly wanted to be there. I know there was rumblings that he didn't want to play in Arizona. He wanted out. He wanted to stay in college or university in Michigan. But he stayed, he came, and now he signed a entry-level contract, and he's ready to compete. And I'm going to tell you, Evan, I'm looking forward to that Arizona team because they're going to be more competitive than people think. Say what you want, but they're going to be an exciting, young, fast team, and I like what they're building there. I think the problem is
I agree.
The word building is I'm looking for what building they're going to be playing in, which building they'll be building so that they can play.
What a pun.
My pun and play on words.
Okay, you guys, you got to know that Pavel was a new daddy last year. So when he's talking about, having a son that's keeping him up a bit, it's, all kids go through they get sick sometimes, and get fevers. But he is getting good at the dad jokes. They're hockey jokes too, but they're dad jokes mostly. So, hey, just bring it around. So we have a special guest. We're not going to go to him. He's a co-host for Locked On Penguins. His name is Hunter Hodies. I think it's Hodies or Hodies. We're going to find out in a few seconds or a few minutes here. He's just running a little bit late for the show. Man, the guy's in so much demand that he's running late. He's one of our few guests who have run late. Heck, even Leah Hextall doesn't show up late, or Robbie Schramp or Kyle Rossetter, NHL boys. But Hunter decides to show up late. So, Hunter, if you're listening, we love you, man. We'll get you to join in as soon as we get a chance here. But why don't I go ahead and do this? Last week, I had a couple of you guys saying, man, come on, you keep putting the Revs off. We need to talk about some of these prospects. Why don't we hit in on the two main characters right now that are top two? They are a slam dunk right now that are going on for in my Revs top 15. But just so you know, if you pull up any top 15 pretty much right now, you're going to see the same numbers. So if you go to our website by JR Web Designs, you're going to be able to find all of our former guests, by the way. So even Hunter today will end up getting, we're going to be updating in the next couple weeks. But you can go into and find the Revs top 15. Soon as I have it ready, the full amount, I'm down to 9. I only have 6 more. So I'm hoping within the week or two, I'll have that fully ready. But I want to talk to everyone about Macklin Celebrini. So, and I got my notes here on the side, Pavel, because when people are going, well, Macklin Celebrini. So first of all, you need to know he's playing in the United States Hockey League. For anyone that does not know about the USHL, years ago, when we're talking 8-9 years ago, the UHL was not a mainstream for hockey players coming into the NHL. But that has changed. They go through development, the United States Development League, and the USHL is probably the number one producer now for top-end talent in the first round. Now, you'll find NCAA Division I hockey is the number one producer for hockey players, but not for top-end picks. That's coming out of the United States Hockey League. So Macklin Celebrini, by the way, is among the top players in his age group. He has solidified himself in that number one spot by a far margin. Now, he is a goal scorer. He is a goal scorer's threat. He covers all areas of the ice. If you haven't got a chance to check out his highlights, I will do that and give you a highlight package that we'll show on one of our shows, probably in about a month and a half time here. But he is also a highly skilled playmaker because he can do it all. He physically can challenge and engage players. And while he is only 5'10", 5'11", I don't have the exact measurements. You know what? Let me bring them in here, folks. There you go. 5'11". He's coming in at right now 181 pounds. And he plays for the Chicago Steel of the United States Hockey League. So this guy, he knows what he's doing, and he can pick teams apart. And I'm telling you, he is a must. He is a must in your pools if you're trying to decide who's going to be your number one overall pick. All right, Hunter's just getting ready. So what I'm going to do is, because I don't want to leave Hunter waiting, I want to be able to get to him right away here. As I said, Hunter is one of the few guys that has left us standing. NHL boys like Robbie Shrimp don't leave us waiting. But down in Pittsburgh and Locked On Penguins, Hunter has decided to leave us waiting and joins us late because he's got a plethora of things going on, man. Hunter, thanks, and welcome to Two Guys in Hockey Talk.
Appreciate you guys having me on. I was actually at the game a little bit tonight. I stayed for the first couple periods and then dipped out. So obviously committed to you guys a few months ago. I'm really excited to be here and talk some Penguins hockey with y'all.
Well, dude,
thank you
before you
for
do
being
that,
on the show. Go ahead, Evan.
I thought I booked you on a night that was a non-Penguins night. Was it a Penguins game today?
It was. They're playing against the Red Wings. It's totally okay. I got the notes I wanted to get. I'll go through the third period once I'm done talking some hockey with y'all.
Oh, okay. Can I give some confession here, Pavel and Hunter, before we get into this? So some of you guys are like, gee, Evan, man, do you have another job? It's because, like, how do you know all this? And Pavel, you might get the same thing. But I'm going to tell you, I live in Western Canada, and the benefit of having Sportsnet Plus and being able Sportsnet Now and getting everything. So a lot of games, I can only pick about 5-6 games to kind of look at. And so all the other games, I do recaps. And I find all the guys like Hunter, and I try and find out what they've got from those games. So if Hunter's only got 2-3 minutes from a game, man, that's all I got. All right. So anyway, Pavel, go ahead. I'm going to get you to open up. Hunter's new to us, so why don't you go ahead and ask him our opening question, which we love for our first-time guests.
We do. So welcome, Hunter. So we ask every guest the same question as we always do. Why is Sidney Crosby the best player? No, I'm just kidding. No. The question is, where did your love for the game first emerge? Where did you first fall in love with the game? Was there a memory or a moment that you look back and you're like, I love the game of hockey?
First memory was actually up on Mount Washington here back. We believe it was 2003, 2004. This was before Sidney Crosby came to town, so the team was obviously really bad. And I remember Rico Fata being on the TV. We were at the Georgetown Inn, and my mom, who has been a fan for a very long time, just told me like, "Oh, this is the hockey team that's on here," and I had my eyes fixed on it the whole time. And I think from then on, I kind of fell in love with the sport. Year after year, obviously, Crosby and Malkin and all them come to town, and you see the first playoff run, and you get a taste of it, and then it gets better and better every year. But honestly, the love for the game, I think, for me, comes from my mother. I mean, again, she's been a Penguins fan for quite a long time. Her favorite player of all time is Paul Coffey. She could tell me Paul Coffey stories until forever, to be honest. But that's really where I get it from. And as the years went on, as I got older, I got more invested in the sport, and I want to learn as much about it as I can, even to this day. And that's really where I got into it. I was really only about 6 or 7 years old at the time. And heck, I'm just glad we were up on Mount Washington here in Pittsburgh at the Georgetown Inn, which is closed now, sadly. And I'm just glad she was able to point out a game to me, even though the team was really bad at that point.
Now, were you and your mom able to either partake in one of the playoff games in that beautiful back-to-back Stanley Cup run, or even attend the parade when they had it?
So I actually moved to Pittsburgh 10 months ago. Before that, I spent most of my childhood, about 20 years of my childhood, down in Caps country in Virginia. So I did not get to go to any of the playoff games during the back-to-back runs. It was a nice graduation gift in 2016 when I got to rub it in all the Caps fans' faces when the Penguins won the cup that year. I'll say that. But I didn't get to go that year. I was supposed to go to the playoff game in 2013. They got swept by Boston. I was supposed to go to game 5. Terrible right there. My mom kept saying like, oh, we may get you a ticket. We may get you a ticket. She didn't fully confirm it. And then after they got swept, she comes down and she's like, yeah, we actually just got tickets for you the day before we got swept. I'm like, thanks. That's just brutal luck right there. But, we were there every step of the way during all those runs, even the 2006-07 season when they made the playoffs for the first time in the Sid era and they got bullied by the Senators, there for that, and just there ever since. But, Pittsburgh's always had a special place in my heart for this hockey team and for numerous other reasons.
That's crazy, man. So I'm a longtime Penguins fan. Everyone says I jump ship too often. So I was an early Canucks fan at 9 years old. Basically at 11, I got to see them go to the Stanley Cup against the New York Islanders. Then became a Flames fan for a few years. So I know all other fans hate that. And then I became a Flyers fan because of Pelle Lindbergh. But when Mario started coming out, so in 1987 at Rendezvous Series, that changed my life around the Penguins were my number one team until my love in 1995 changed over to the Oilers, where I currently live in Edmonton. So that progression, but man, I still believe today Mario Lemieux is the number one best player of all time, ahead of Wayne Gretzky. I know you Gretzky fans are going to just kind of like go. I mean, if you could sue me, you would. By the way, can I just throw a shout out right now to Andrew Dibble? Hey, Andrew, thanks for coming on right now, guys. By the way, Andrew Dibble is the owner of the Kalkaska Battlers of the Michigan Independence Hockey League, our brand new partner that is in on our show here tonight. So you're going to have to, Andrew, if we got ways to follow you, maybe if you could throw it in the comments section and we'll make sure to get it up there for everything. And we're going to bring Andrew in on one of our shows a little later. So, okay, man. So I got a thought for you. The year that Sidney Crosby, sorry, I just got to put our shameless plug in here for our partnerships. The year Sidney Crosby came in. Now, again, being from Edmonton, I was hoping, right? We got Andrew Cogliano instead of Sidney Crosby. I remember waiting that night. But when he came in, and then we saw Mario Lemieux decide to retire. Now, how old were you again at that time? And what was your response when you saw that?
2005, so Sid's rookie year. I was turning 8 that year. It's crazy. I know. I'm probably one of the younger guests you've had on your show.
Yeah. So did you have any emotional connection at that point?
Not as much to Mario, just because I wasn't, I guess, alive during the full height of his powers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The late 80s, early 90s with him and Yager and Kevin Stevens and Paul Coffey and all these guys who were so great. And I forever to this day wish that I got to live during that time because, I mean, I still think Mario Lemieux is the greatest hockey player to ever do it. I think if he did not have cancer or did not have his back issue, he would blow Wayne Gretzky's records out of the water. But that's my opinion, at least. I'm probably going to get a lot of heat for that. But I didn't have as much to an emotional connection to Mario at that time. As I've gotten older and as I've gone back to watch old Penguins games, of course, during the late 80s, early 90s into the mid 90s, always I've gained a much fonder appreciation and more of a wish that I could have lived during that time.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because I remember when Malkin came in, the deception of now I'm the older guy. I mean, Pavel's no young chicken, but I am the older guy here, being 53 now, and having literally seen hockey basically and understanding the game since 1980. But one of the things that was interesting is a lot of people did not think he had speed. They thought he was slow, lethargic. But isn't it interesting when Malkin came into the game? Because Malkin, people didn't look at him with any speed or anything like that. But yet, I mean, his control and the ability to slow the game down like Lemieux was amazing.
He was a bully during his prime years. Still is to this day. Maybe not as much, but when he was at the height of his power too, Gino, you couldn't take the puck off his stick. I'll always say during the 2009 Cup run, there was not a better player in the world than Evgeny Malkin. Just bullied everyone in those playoffs. 2016, 2017, he comes back from his elbow injury in 2016. Really good 2017. Could have made the case that he should have won the Conn Smythe over Sid that year. Yeah. I mean, I was team Sid there, but you could have given it to either one. Gino was that good that year, and he much deserved the 09 one. But man, he's probably going to go down, at least in this era, or overall, is probably one of the more underrated hockey players of all time. It's still a shame that he wasn't even in the NHL's top 100 list. I'll always go off him for that. It's a joke.
Disappointing. Just the silliest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing, Pavel, I remember you talked about it many times. I'm sure Hunter.
Oh, yeah. I
was
one of the biggest omissions ever, and I don't understand why. What the NHL decides and sometimes does is also beyond my purview. So, so we've gone from that era, and it feels like a lifetime ago to 2016, 2017. You have Pittsburgh now. You brought in a new general manager. We wanted to get your thoughts on Kyle Dubas, given what you may have heard or seen what he's done in Toronto, as well as with some of the trades. And where do you think they go through this season, given that they brought in the big fish, the Erik Karlsson, but they are on the older side? And what are your expectations after having been blessed for 16 years of playoff runs? Sure. Here we are now. What are your thoughts around the team, the area, the fan base? What are you hearing, seeing, etc.?
I think the fan base is super excited for the season. Kyle Dubas, obviously got hired 4 months ago. He just injected such excitement into this team and the fan base with all the moves he made, starting in free agency with the Riley Smith trade. You go out into free agency, you sign Ryan Graves, you sign a few other depth players. Obviously, you hit the home run with Erik Karlsson. It's the classic trade all of our bad players for your one good player. That's basically what it was here. And with that, yes, the team is a bit older, but Kyle Dubas and company are betting on them to get back into the dance. I still have them as a playoff team this year. I know it's unusual to see a team that's this old go on deep cup runs, but I think Kyle Dubas kind of said it best during his introductory press conference. If you want to bet against Hall of Famers, you go right ahead. I think the Penguins really have something to prove this year. And I think they have this chip on their shoulder that, because they missed the playoffs last year, Sidney Crosby, I think, really took it personally. I was listening to Elliot Friedman's interview with him on 32 Thoughts, and the way Sidney Crosby sounded, he sounded like a guy who was pissed off that, we don't miss the playoffs in this city. And, obviously that streak got broken this past year where they lost on that fateful night to the Chicago Blackhawks. I was in the building for that. Everyone was doing the Fire Hextall chants after the game. Everyone knew what was coming after that. And that season was just such a whirlwind in so many cases. But this team, it's so different. So many new faces. You have the new GM and president of hockey ops. You have the reigning Norris Trophy winner. You have the core guys. They have something that they want to prove this year. And now they may not be a top tier contender. I don't think they are. But I do think this team is good enough to get back into the playoffs. And just speaking of the playoffs this past year, I felt weird on that opening night of the playoffs. I sat down on my couch. I'm like, wow, I don't have to stress out about playoff hockey for the first time since I was 9 years old. It just felt really strange. Probably felt really strange to the core players, but I think it's something that they don't ever want to feel again. And I don't think it's something that I ever want to feel again either as a fan.
Now, and I'll let Evan ask this question in a second because I just want to add to that because there's been a lot of interesting moves that Kyle Dubas has made. I like the Ryan Graves signing. He's a good defenseman. I think people are saying he's overpaid. I disagree. If people have watched him and where he's played before in New Jersey, in Colorado, he's been solid. What I want to go to, and Evan can maybe comment on this, is the signing of Tristan Jarry because it seems like he's doubling down, and I'm pretty sure that the fan base is very divided on it from what I've heard about Tristan Jarry. Now, he has good numbers when you look at it last year. And overall, he's in the top 10 percentile of saves. He's solid. Injury has bitten him in the past. What are your thoughts on the signing? And do you think he could have a bounce back season, especially now that you don't have Casey DeSmith? And what do you expect from him? 50 games, 60 games, maybe split?
I do think he can have a bounce back here. He's shown an ability to play well during the regular season a couple of times when he's healthy. The year that he kind of split with Matt Murray before Matt was traded to the Senators, he was really good. He should have started in the playoffs for the Penguins that year. I think Mike Sullivan was just too loyal to Matt. And then by the time those first 3 games against the Canadiens happened, you put Jarry in. It's too little too late. I think the Penguins kind of checked out in that game 4, even though Jarry gave them a chance to win. And then in 2021, 2022, Jarry is having a phenomenal year. 919, 920 save percentage, top 10 in goal saved above expected, and then Anders Lee breaks his foot. And then after that, he's playing okay last year, gets the groin problem, gets the back problem, just not the same goalie. He was playing hurt down the stretch. Now, he says he's healthy heading into the year. That's the big thing for him. If you can get 45, 50, 52 games out of him this year, and he gives you quality goaltending, whether that's 915, 920, I don't need him to be a world beater. I don't need him to go 925, 930, heck, 938 that Igor Shesterkin just did a couple years ago. You just need him to be average to a bit above average. If they can get goaltending from him, I think the Penguins can get back to the playoffs and maybe even win a round or 2. That contract, it's a lot. Kyle Dubas, some of his weaknesses have been with goalie contracts. This one is definitely a big risk. 5 years, over $5 million. It's a high ticket. But if he can stay healthy and stay at least consistent, average to above average, this contract should be fine. It's if he gets banged up, if you have to rely on Alex Nedeljkovic a bit more, it starts to get a bit dicey. But I think he is the big X factor this year. I think he's looked fine during camp and the preseason. I was wanting him to have that redemption arc so bad just a couple of seasons ago before Anders Lee broke his foot in the playoffs because he was playing like someone who had something to prove to the fan base, and I still think he has something to prove. He just has to go out on the ice and show it and stay healthy.
Well, and it's interesting. So I wasn't going to touch on Tristan Jarry, but that's a great question, Pavel, because I know you've had those concerns in the past. Now, of course, I am not someone who thinks that if you go and read any of my articles, guys, on goalie is it voodoo? A voodoo position. I do not believe that. I believe that it is, you can see a trajectory. You can see the position. You can look at things like injuries and all the things that kind of lie out there. So I will actually post a link onto the site of a post, our Goalies Voodoo article that I did. I know it's a shameless plug, but you guys need to read it because not many people write on this stuff, and I do not believe that. Now, Jarry, again, we are Western boys from Edmonton, Alberta, so we're very familiar with Jarry. In fact, I was quite excited when Pittsburgh was able to. But I believe he's sitting at a 915, 916 save percentage. And save percentage means more to me than absolutely anything else, especially when you're not in a really strong defensive structured game with big D-men that block shots, that only outside shots. He gets a lot of high caliber shots that can come in on him sometimes with some of those lesser lines, in your second and third lines. But interesting enough, I just pulled it up on Elite Prospects here. I'm throwing a plug in there for you guys. So last year, 47 games, 290 save percentage. Okay, 290 goals against average. But he had a 909. Last year was one of the highest years of production, and even with his injuries, still coming in at a 909. I'm looking at this and saying that was considered a bad year. He had 909 2 years previous with 39 games. Previous year, he had 919 in his 58, and of course, 921 and 915 the 2 years. I think people need to get off that wagon. I think that that Pavel will literally shat himself at the end of the year when he goes, man, Jari's a guy. And I do, Hunter, I stand with you and the Penguins fans. They will make the playoffs this year. And I think they're going to take a first-round surprise, at least minimum first-round win. So I don't know where that's going to make them line up, but those guys are hungry. And Sid is a captain for a reason. So give me the reasons why. So I'm going to make a jump from that. Give me the reasons why. You can say something if you want to throw in on Jari, but why you think that Karlsson, though, was a good pickup for the team, other than obviously he scored 100-plus points.
Yeah, outside of that, I just thought the Penguins needed more offense heading into the year. You can't just rely on your top six to score. The bottom six, say what you will of the plan that Kyle Dubas has. At least he has a plan, unlike Ron Hextall. The bottom six is going to be a bit more defensive heading into the year. Hopefully they'll get some production out of it. But overall, Karlsson just helps the offensive game so much. And he can score. He can pass. He can break the puck out of his own end. He's just a perfect fit for Mike Sullivan's system. And for the first time in quite a while, Chris Letang has a buddy for this defensive group. For a long time, it's just been him and, not as much help offensively. You had guys like Brian Dumoulin when he was at the height of his power, really good defensive defenseman. You had Ian Cole, who wasn't bad for those couple years. Justin Schultz was a nice reclamation project and turned into a top four defenseman. But those players aren't Erik Karlsson. And I don't think Letang has ever played with a defenseman as good as Karlsson. I mean, he played with Sergei Gonchar earlier on, and Gonch is incredible as well. He should probably be in the Hall of Fame at some point, in my opinion. But I don't think he's as good as Erik Karlsson's going to be in the Hall of Fame as well. And I think Karlsson at this point right now is a better defenseman. But just getting him that help and having Letang not have to be that guy every single night, it's going to make things easier on him. It's going to lower his minutes a little bit. And for the Penguins, especially with Karlsson, just going to help them drive more offense. He'll get to be teaming up with Evgeny Malkin. I mean, Gino's never played with a defenseman this good in his career. Usually, Letang is hogged up by Sidney Crosby. It's been that way throughout his career. Gino usually gets the quote-unquote scraps there and is still able to get so many points per season. But now he'll have Karlsson, and that's only going to help things a lot. So it made a lot of sense despite him being a bit older, despite the contract. You didn't really have to give up anything to get him. I mean, a first-round pick and a bunch of spare parts, I think, to be honest. So if you can do that and you can get the reigning Norris Trophy winner, and I know people will have their opinions on whether he should have won the Norris or not, but it's still a slam dunk to me, and I think he's going to really help this team this year.
I mean,
Absolutely.
the guy
So
got
before-
one of the bottom pairing teams 100 points, so I think he's well deserved. 100 plus points. I mean, I think it was 101.
Yeah.
Like to do that on the Sharks when they were struggling last year, and he was predominantly their offensive guy. And no offense to Shark fans, they're in the rebuild, but yeah, agreed. He's coming in and he's going to make that power play dynamic and make that back end really dynamic. Now, do you want to touch a little bit on, and then I'll let Evan jump in. Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
are you changing off of the Karlsson discussion, or are you going a little further into that, Pavel?
Just
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to kind of focus
go
on.
for it.
Okay. I was just going to ask, how come people don't realize how effective and smart, even though he's out right now, Jake Gensel is, and how incredible of a player he is, and that he continues to, like Malkin, be underrated, even though he consistently has 30-plus goal seasons, and he's been like a gem to find for that team.
When he is at the height of his power, I think he's a top 5 goal scorer in the league. That might be a little too homery for some people, but the way he can score with such little space that people can give him, it's second to none, to be honest. I mean, 240 goal seasons as a Penguin. I predicted he was going to have 50 last year. I didn't get it there. Maybe I'll do it this year to see if he gets 50 for the first time. But you're right. He is such a smart, intelligent hockey player. He knows exactly where to go to score goals in the NHL. And honestly, he can score from anywhere. You want him to score from the left side of the rink? He can do that. You want him to score from the front of the net? He can do that. You want him to score from the other side of the rink? He can do that too. His release is just fantastic. And he forms a great partnership with Sidney Crosby that they know exactly where each other are when they're on the ice. And it's always fun seeing them work together when the top line is out there. And Gensel has his new contract up at the end of this year, making $6 million right now. If he goes out there, scores 40, 50 goals, and I think he'll be in that 40-plus goal range this year, he's going to command a hefty price. And that's going to be another big storyline to talk about for the Penguins, is because, do they want to sign a player in his early 30s to a contract that takes him well into his late 30s, and he's going to make what, 8.5, 9 million per season, somewhere in that range? That's going to have to be a big discussion for Kyle Dubas and company. But you said it. I think he's a super underrated player. Not enough people around the league talk about him being the best player in the league, and that needs to change.
Well, I do want to go back to Carlson, but before we do that, can I just ask you a quick question on Getzel? Now, my understanding, so most of his, I believe around 65, so his time between Malkin and Crosby, I believe he's around 65% of his time has been with Crosby. Is that correct?
He plays most of his minutes with Crosby, but he has played quite a bit with Gino too. His numbers are actually just as good, if not better, with Gino than Crosby. It flip-flops.
Okay, so and I was going to ask that question because that's kind of what I thought. I thought maybe it was you or someone else that put that out there. Is there any reason why you think? I mean, Malkin is a very unique player that does take a special kind of player to work with him. Crosby seems to make. Let's just say that even the great Mario Lemieux didn't always make a player great. By the way, Rob Brown was an amazing goal scorer. So don't go back to Rob Brown and say, well, anyone could ride his coattails. A lot of people played with Lemieux, and he put up points, but they didn't. McDavid is the same. But Crosby produces people regardless. It's amazing. In fact, it's interesting. Even the All-Star games, remember early on, him and Ovechkin did not gel. But why would they not? Or has there ever been talk around Penguins fans or the media why they don't play him more with Malkin than if he seems to have a higher? Or is it just because it's an analytics statistic?
You do see talk of it around the Penguins media and the fans during the season if Gaston and Crosby are struggling to produce at one point in the season. Heck, Mike Sullivan will sometimes even change it up at times. But normally he likes his line combinations. He kind of works in duos. If you ask me, like, for example, this year, when Jake comes back, whenever that is, hopefully it's next week, he usually likes to do, Gensel and Crosby. And then for this year, it's Smith and Malkin. He likes Riley Smith and his combination with Gino. But if he wanted to mix it up, you can move Gensel down with Malkin, and he won't miss a beat. Gensel's production, again, is just as good, if not better, away from Crosby overall. People like to think that Gensel is a product of Crosby because I understand Crosby makes players around him better. He got Chris Kunitz to Team Canada all those years ago. Hey, Cooney was good. I will say Chris Kunitz was good that year. The Crosby helped get him there. You'd have Pascal Dupuis, a couple other players. Marian Hossa probably doesn't fall into that category, but I love the Hossa time. That was incredible. But with Gensel, he sees the ice so well. He's super intelligent. He can make plays by himself that Crosby doesn't need to make for him, and that's why you can fit him on either line. With Gino, he's someone who likes the puck a lot, and Gensel's fine with that. I mean, if you want to give him the puck, he'll obviously put it in the back of the net more times than not. But I just think him and Gensel, that is, work better together because I think Gensel sees the ice a little bit better with Crosby than Malkin, but it's really not by much. Their numbers, Gensel's numbers with both are so good. And I would like to see maybe more of a sample size with Gensel and Malkin at some point. But if Mike Sullivan likes him and Crosby, I'm not going to really argue it too much, especially if they keep producing.
It's all top six, exactly. So now there was a question, and then I'm going to let Pavel come in on the next one here. There was a question that folks have for you, and that is around the power play time, because Chris Letang has been the power play boy on that back end. So for those that have not been watching some of the preseason, what they're doing, have they played together? Have they just been going with? Is there talk from Sullivan? Is he telling us any hints? Like, what's going to happen for that time? A lot of people believe Karlsson's numbers lacked when Burns was there. Burns leaving benefit. That's their belief system. So give us your take on this.
Yeah, so Mike Sullivan has said that he wants to unleash Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson on the same power play. So far, it's been a work in progress. Karlsson has been quarterbacking it from the point. Letang has been in the Phil Kessel spot that made the power play really click during the 2016 and 2017 Stanley Cup runs. And to be nice, I think it's been a major adjustment. The unit hasn't looked that good. Now, It is the preseason. They're working out the kinks. But I think people have to remember Chris Letang has not played in that Kessel spot on the left bumper, on the left boards, since Sergei Gonchar was quarterback in the power play all those years ago. So it's a major adjustment for him. And yeah, I mean, it looked kind of meh in practice. It looks kind of meh in games, but I'm not super concerned just yet. Now, if you get to game 10, game 15, heck, I said this on my show this week with Pat, game 41, and this unit is still looking really bad, then okay, let's make some changes, especially, game 10 or even 15 early on in the season. That's where you also want to make some tweaks to it. But still, even later on in the season, if it's looking bad, you got some problems. And I think right now there might be, how do I want to say it? I don't think it's too many cooks in the kitchen, but it's just everyone is feeling each other out, trying to get used to this unit. It's going to get even more interesting when Gensel's ready to return, because he's going to, I think, go back onto that unit, and then the Penguins will have a choice as to who comes off. Is it going to be Letang? Because they will obviously want Carlson running it. Or is it going to be Ricard Raquel, who has a great one-timer from the bumper slot spot? Curious to see what they do. I'm not concerned right now. They just got to get a feel for each other. I saw actually during the last preseason game earlier this week in Nova Scotia, when the power play wasn't working, Letang seemed to be a bit upset on the bench, and Carlson put his arm around him, and was just like talking to him, like saying, like, hey, it's okay, like we're going to get it. And it's just, you want to see that kind of stuff, even though it's the preseason, that, they can get this to work. And I do think it is going to work at some point during the regular season. I know people like to joke on Todd Reardon because the unit wasn't that good last year, but I do think this is going to sort itself out.
Fair enough. So I have a few questions, and one will relate to Evan. But first I want to ask, because we'll focus on the team and we'll get into prospects for Pittsburgh, because I know that was an area of concern that some of upper management have. But before we get to there, two of the storylines that I think we have to watch for, and I'm wondering your thoughts on, is A, Jeff Carter, given his age and still playing at, potentially competing at that level with the contract that he has. And B, I believe Mike Sullivan is the second longest serving coach behind John Cooper right now still in the NHL. What are your thoughts? Do you think he's on the hot seat potentially if they don't make the playoffs? Do you think they'd make a change midway through the season if, like you said, by game 40 there's no success? Or is there, like, he's going to finish through the season given the success he's had with Pittsburgh?
I do think Mike Sullivan is going to finish this season no matter what in Pittsburgh. I think people forget he still has a contract extension that hasn't even kicked in yet. After this year, he has a 3-year contract extension that the Fenway Sports Group signed him to when Ron Hextall was there. After the 2021-2022 season, he was signed to a 3-year extension with 2 years left on his old contract. So unless they're woefully bad, and I mean bottom 10 level bad, and you're tanking for the number 1 overall pick, I think he's going to stay as the head coach of the Penguins. Now, if they do miss the playoffs, I can revisit that take. Kyle Dubas came in. Doesn't have the loyalty that I guess he would have had to maybe Sheldon Keefe, but by all accounts and purposes, Sullivan and Dubas seem to be getting along really well. So you have to weigh that in as well. But I do think Sullivan, he's a bit stubborn. I'll say that. And getting into the Carter thing as well, Jeff Carter is going to play this year. Now, whether he should play is a whole different story. I would probably lean towards no, obviously. I wish he wasn't on the team this year. But when you have that contract and you can't really send him down, you can't really waive him, you're not going to get any cap relief, you have no choice. You have to play him. You're not going to put over $3 million of salary cap space in a press box every night. That's just not going to happen. That's a problem. That's a problem that will sort itself out after the year. You'll get out of that contract. He'll go to another team, walk off into the sunset, whatever. But he is going to play for most of the season. You just have to manage his minutes. Where that comes in with Mike Sullivan, though, Sullivan didn't really do that this past season. I think he relied on him way too much. He overvalued his face-off ability. He overvalued his defensive ability. He was in constant situations where he was on the ice during 6-on-5s. He was on the ice in overtime to take an opening face-off, which still made no sense, in my opinion. He has to stop being stubborn with a veteran player like that. Play him on the 4th line. Give him 8 to 10 minutes a game. You can do that if you can get decent production out of him. Okay, that's fine. He can walk after this season. I think Sullivan just needs to give some of these younger players a little bit of a chance, whether that's Alex Nylander, Drew O'Connor, who I do think will make the team. You have Mark Freeman, he's not really that young, but Mark Freeman's potentially be the number 6 guy. You have other young players in Wilkes-Barre that potentially may be ready to go, like Sam Poulin. You have Valtteri Puustinen, a couple other guys. I know Wilkes-Barre's not world beaters in the AHL, let's be real here, but they still have some young players who I think could make an impact at the NHL level, and I think Sullivan has to realize that. I don't think his message has gone stale. I think he has the respect of the veteran leadership group, and as long as that's the case, I think he's going to be the head coach of the Penguins. I'll say it. I think he's the best head coach in franchise history, and that's going to remain the case for quite a long time, in my opinion. So that's what I think on that situation. And then the Jeff Carter thing. And trust me, I get Jeff Carter comments on my show all the time. People want him off the ice. All I can say is Mike Sullivan obviously likes him a little bit. He's going to be in the lineup for most games, but I don't think he's going to have as big of a role this year compared to last year.
Are you saying a veteran coach has a preference for a veteran player over a young player? That's
breaking news.
I
know, so, breaking news.
So I know Evan wants to talk prospects. So let's talk a little bit about the prospect, like Owen Pickering, Brendan Yeager. There's some big names coming up. I know their prospect pool isn't the biggest. They're not Detroit. They're not Ottawa. They're not Buffalo. But there are some guys coming through. And I kind of want to get your thoughts on Ty Smith, because I like Ty Smith, what I saw him in New Jersey, but he was just waived. And I know he may want a fresh start, but what are your thoughts on his play? Because I know he hasn't really – there was an interview with him about him on 32,000 with Elliot Friedman, how he just wasn't competitive. What are your thoughts on him and what he brings, and can he still turn it around, or does he need a change of scenery?
I think he might be at the stage now where a change of scenery might benefit him. I just don't see a fit for him in the lineup right now. P.O. Joseph, I think, has blown past him the past couple of years. And it's funny, I thought Ty Smith did enough to make the team last year. I thought he was better in camp and the preseason over P.O. Joseph. But the staff didn't see it that way. And also, one of the biggest things was the Penguins, they didn't have the cap space to ice him for opening night, just because Ron Hextall bungled the cap so badly. They had to make all these waiver moves and sending players down and all this other stuff just to be cap compliant by a few dollars for opening night. If they had a better cap situation, I think Ty Smith potentially would have been on the team. But he went down to Wilkes-Barre. I thought he played fine, came up a couple times during the season, looked okay, can really quarterback the power play, but they obviously preferred P.O. Joseph at that point. And then heading into this year, you thought there was maybe a little bit of a competition. Oh, like, could maybe Smith pass P.O. Joseph on the depth chart? No. P.O. blew right past him during camp in the preseason, which is why you saw Smith waived. He wasn't claimed, which I'll admit surprised me a little bit. I thought a team would take a cheap flyer on him, see what they can do with him for the rest of camp in the preseason, and maybe keep him during the regular season. I do think he has talent. That has been evident. I think he's an NHL player. He's very gifted with the puck on his stick, needs to work on his defensive game a bit. But I just don't know if I see a fit in Pittsburgh right now. I think he's just kind of stuck here. And I want what's the word I'm looking for? I kind of want like a non-contender to maybe take a chance on him, give him more ice time, see what he can do. He's still young enough at this point in his career. I mean, he was a first-round pick for a reason, had a great rookie year in New Jersey before it went downhill the next year, which obviously got him traded to Pittsburgh for John Marino. But I do think at this point, another team that can give him the minutes should take a shot on him. Awesome.
No, I'm glad you asked that question on him, Pavel, because that was actually one of the things. Just to highlight, actually, it's already 10-2. We've gone way past. Man, I feel like this has been 10 minutes under. We're going to have to book another time later in the season here. If you're cool with that, maybe we'll talk around February or March or something. Kind of see how things are going. What I'd like to do is kind of throw out one last question to give people a review, because I'm going to come right out of this to my Revs top 15 if we can, guys. Is Brandon Yeager. Now, I posted on Two Guys in Hockey Talk, guys, in one of my blogs on Braden. And maybe you can tell us, what did he look like in camp, and what was kind of your thoughts? What have been the talk around some of the folks around the team? Maybe what have coaches said for those that are not as closely following the Pittsburgh Penguins?
He had a very good camp. I honestly wish that he could have stuck around a little longer. He did have kind of his last preseason game wasn't up to par like some of the other preseason games that he appeared in some training camp practices, which I think got him sent down a bit early. But I think he showed why he's the top prospect in the Penguins system. That release is disgusting. He had a shootout goal early on in the preseason where just a flick of the wrist, boom, it's in the back of the net. I thought he had a top 5 release in this draft class. In my opinion, that's why he got drafted where he was by the Penguins. And he's had a really good start to his junior year. In the first couple of games, scored quite a few goals, one of which was a game winner. He's been electric. And that's what I want to see from him this year. I want to see him get back to basics, score more goals. I still want to see how his two-way game develops. But at the Prospect Challenge, I thought he was one of their best players. At camp, I thought he was one of their best players. It seems like for the first time in quite a while, the Penguins have a legit prospect. And it feels good to say that because we all know the Penguins farm system has been really bad throughout this time. And that's the price you pay. Banners hang forever. That's what I'll always say. But Braden Yeager, I didn't think he was going to be on the team this year. I don't think he'll make it next year. Maybe as an outside shot. But after that, I think he definitely has a shot to be on this team in maybe 2025 or something like that. He definitely looks like the real deal right now. And I really want to see what he can do the rest of this year in junior and potentially if he makes the World Junior team for Canada.
You know, it's interesting. So one of the things I wrote about him is, number one, putting on some muscle. I'm not sure how much he put on over the summer. He had a limited amount of time to be able to do that. But I have him as a number 2 center. And coming out, I mean, the fall, had a lot to do with what was available and people wanting the big boys out there. And, you know, they're just looking for other things. But, I mean, this is the highest level prospect the Penguins have had of this caliber. And to drop to them at that stage, I mean, is absolutely amazing. And you are right, because they have so much veteran experience. That's what's going to hold them out, which I think for Braden, this is going to be beneficial to him.
Right. And it's funny. I was hoping Zach Benson was going to drop one more spot because the Sabres nabbed him. I'm like, please, God, get him there because he might make the Sabres team this year. He's been insane during camp in the preseason. But still, there were plenty of good options for the Penguins at that pick. I had Yeager on my board, maybe a bit below some of the other players, but it was still a perfectly fine pick. And I think if you also look on his two-way game.
Who else did you have? Just curious at that stage. Who else were you open to seeing them draft? Just curious.
I loved Quentin Musty in this class. I thought his playmaking ability is really good.
Signed his contract today with San Jose Sharks.
Yep. I know. I liked him quite a bit coming out. Gabe Perreault, who was the Rangers pick, if I'm not mistaken, he was very high on my board too. I thought those two players there could have been picked, but I'll still take Yeager any day. I think he was a perfectly solid pick.
Yeah, So I'm just going to go on record. So I do my Revs top 15. And one of the things I do is I do a career projection is what I do for my ratings. And I actually had him 9th as I think having the 9th best career. So I personally think Penguin fans, you're going to be happy, but you're going to have to be patient because the Penguins are not ready just to bring a bunch of guys in right now. They want to win. They want to, and that's not a bad thing because they're going to need those elite level contracts. And then when some of those other salaries are taken off, they're going to be able to go and pick up some other guys in there. So, man, Hunter, it's been a pleasure. I'm so sorry. You have one last thing you had there, Pavel?
I was going to make a comment, and maybe you can allude to it, Hunter. How wonderful would it be, because he's still not signed, but Mr. Phil Kessel, Mr. Ironman Streak, returning for one more season, minimum wage, doesn't care about the Ironman Streak anyways, coming back for one more hurrah. And I know him and Malkin butted heads, but man, was that an effective line.
For the vibes, yes, I would do it for the vibes. Outside of that, I think at this point, it's probably too late. I always love Phil Kessel. What he did in 2016 and 2017 is stuff of legends. He was one of the best players for the Penguins during that time. But I think that time has passed. He was great for the Knights during the regular season. Didn't play as much in the playoffs. I hope another team picks him up. But I would do it for the vibes, though. I'll say that. But I think just pure hockey standpoint at this point, probably best to go in another direction, but I'll always have good things to say about Phil. He's a legend here.
Well, we're all about the vibes here at Two Guys Hockey Talks, right, Evan?
Yeah, exactly. And so I would just like to, we didn't actually advertise this last time, Pavel, on our last show, or last two. So as many of you guys know, for the PWHL, by the way, throw a name in there. I'm throwing in a thing to see if we can grab a partnership with the PWHL. We've been promoting women's hockey for years here now. Not that we've been around that long. We've only been around since the beginning of the pandemic there, coming out of into the bubble. But I would like to say this. So Howie Draper is our last person who appeared on our show that has now got their promotion, of course, to the New York Professional Women's Hockey League franchise. So we've had Jamie Basco, we've had Alex Thomas, we've had Howie Draper, even Leah Hextall got more of a face later on. I can go through the list. So Hunter, I don't know what's sitting up for you. I know you're working as co-host on Locked On Penguins. You got a lot of other stuff on the go. By the way, guys, as a former guest, so on our show, we specifically have a place that you can go onto our website, and in our website, you will be able to follow all of our former guests. So you can find all their content and stuff. We will get all of Hunter's stuff up in there and about that. So maybe we'll stick him up right beside old Robbie Schremp there, who played with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, man. By the way, sorry, Hunter, I booted you out, man. In the meantime, I apologize. Keep your stick on the ice, dude. Okay, look at that, eh? I'm just so terrible. So, but guys, give Hunter a follow. Go check out Lock On Penguins. It's an incredible. I've been enjoying getting all the information. I talked about him getting a promotion, and then I booted him off our show. My apology, Hunter. So we'll hopefully touch base really soon again. So, man, that was a great interview.
Hunter.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Clearly, Evan is jealous of your success and just booting everyone out after giving us such a phenomenal interview. We appreciate it. Remember, guys, we are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You can find me at hockey_2, Evan at REV. We'll have Hunter's credentials up there as well. Make sure to give him a like and a follow. He's got great content. Go give him a look. Check out what he's doing, because he's doing incredible work for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Evan, I'm excited for the Pittsburgh team because they've got a lot on the line. There's a lot of pressure there, not only on Dubas, but Mike Sullivan, but also on Sidney Crosby and that team trying to get to the playoffs again and potentially
absolutely right,
getting one more cup run into them. So I'm looking forward to it. We thank you again for tuning in. Is there anything else, Evan, that we're...
Yeah. Well, I wanted to finish my last piece here because we had talked about, I wanted to do a breakdown. So I'm going to do a quick 1.5-minute breakdown for you guys on Cole Yzerman. So when we were talking about some of the guys and the players, so specifically we talked about Macklin, and I still think he's going number one. But I'm telling you guys, this year is a year of Cole Yzerman. And he be the second Yzerman, if you know what I mean. Just spelt differently, not with a YZ, but with an EI. This guy is setting records. You can follow us on Twitter. So at hockey_2 with Pavel and myself at Revenev. We will post stuff on a lot of the different guys. I like to post a lot on the prospects, stuff going on also around and outside the NHL. If there's new topics, whether it's women's hockey or things on the Hockey Canada stuff, you will find Pavel very active in there. So, but I do want to just mention right now, his goal is to be called first, and he wants to be the number one draft pick. I don't think I've seen a year where there's a potential of a player like Yzerman to actually, he's in the development. So he's in the development league in the United States. And so that program has developed some incredible players like Jack Hughes. And so while he's playing for the Chicago Steel with Macklin, know that Cole will be pushing him. But it's going to be interesting because both these players, I believe, will be playing for the United States team in the World Juniors. So you're going to have to keep your eyes open. He is essentially the same size, but right now, he at his stage where he is producing right now at a better record than any American player at his age in goal scoring. This guy is a goal scorer. Look out, Brett Hall. That's all I can say. Look out, Brett Hall. Could you imagine him getting... And this is what you're not going to like me to hear. I was thinking about the Penguins. I'm just going to come off of this for a sec here, buddy. And I do want to mention something quickly about Mishkov in their closer. I'll go out with that last thought, and I'll give you a different thought. But do you realize, I'm sure Tab Bamford, who was just on our show a couple weeks ago, would be sitting here like drooling at the mouth. So you have Macklin Celebrini, Cole Yzerman, and/or Ivan Demidov, all potential, because we're pretty sure Chicago is going to have a chance in the draft at one of those three players to be able to go and play with Connor Bedard. But this is what got me thinking. Forgot that Chicago beat the Pittsburgh Penguins at the end of the year, which made them lose their spot. If they had not beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, they would not have been in the position they were in, and they would not have got Connor Bedard. So they had to win out to get Connor Bedard.
Yep.
Interesting. So have you followed anything on Bedard? Let's give one last thought. Maybe can you give us a last thought on Bedard? I'll give us a last thought on
He's been electric dynamite in some of the games that he's played, specifically versus the Red Wings, putting up a lot of assists. I don't know if he has a goal yet, but he's been dynamic. And
last night he scored an empty net goal, man, for his first goal in the preseason.
There you go. So he's been
he looked mad.
Pushing. But some of the plays he's making have been incredible. The game versus St. Louis, that was a gem. The kid can skate, the kid has finesse, and the kid has hands. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on opening night.
Just the entertainment factor, right? Like, so right now I am catching all the games that I can possibly with Chicago. I might be fast forwarding to when he's on the ice. It's just, it's like watching any star player, even watching Kucherov, right? When you watch all of his plays in Tampa, you don't have to like the team, but man, how do you deny the talent of some of these players? Like Tage Thompson in Buffalo. I know I got Jeremy I've been trying to get on for quite a while. Jeremy, if you're listening, we are going to book you on. But the Tage Thompson thing, it's just, this guy's huge, and he's coming out on his own to be a player that no one expected him to be. So, and speaking of players, Mishkov. So Matvei Mishkov, who everyone was making a big deal that, he's not playing. The coach isn't putting him out there because of this or that. And Demidov has already got playing, and he's got an assist, and he's only got 4 minutes of playing time in 3 games. He's not any good. You know what? I'm just going to say, you guys, I'd like to see you go back on your X, which is known as Twitter to most of you, and go back on and admit that you were stupid in your analysis of Mishkov. You ripped him apart. You ripped him a new bumhole. And then after you were done with that, you never came back on Twitter to make an announcement that, hey, right now he has 10 points in 8 games for Sochi, beat the team that he just got loaned from. The kid has a lethal one-timer, hasn't even used it yet in the NHL. I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. Guys, it's been a ring-a-ding-dong dandy. I just want to thank all of our sponsors. Behind me, you can see Penny Billionaires, man, one of the top bands, hard rock electronic fused music. One of our new sponsors, the Michigan Independence Hockey League. Andrew Dibble was on the show. By the way, if you want to go check them out, it's facebook.com, Kalkaska Battlers. We're going to share more about that. They got some promos we're going to be bringing on. We're going to give you some promos coming up down the road, as well as go ahead and mention about Web Designs and Sports Empire for all our folks following.
Sports Empire are a great partner who work with us on all things sports. They connect us. Kyle, Key, all the people out there. Been phenomenal connecting with them. All your sporting needs, baseball, basketball, NFL is in play, NBA's coming up, MLB playoffs. They've got you covered. JR Web Design, go check out our website. We got great articles about the KHL, NHL, weekly updates about what's going around the league, Evans prospects. We've got some great writers coming on. Whatever you want, we got you covered. So go give it a follow and check it out. And we have our podcast weekly on there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things. So we aim to get through two guys, not just Sports Empire, up our podcast into all the new networks as we step it up a line. And we have some incredible guests. I do just want to mention, because I hate to not give notice. Now, there is going to be a slight change. Next week, we did have Tom Gazzola. What we didn't stop and look at in the bookings, which we didn't know, he works with the Oil Stream, Oilers Nation, following the Edmonton Oilers. So when Pavel did his booking with Tom, and I doubt Tom's busy right now with the Oilers. So in the meantime, we're going to reschedule him on a non-Edmonton Oiler night. Tom is incredibly good at breaking down the game of hockey. So we got some other guests that are going to be coming on as well. Adam Proto, I just confirmed everything of the hockey news, will be with us as well. And I believe Daryl Wolski, our Player Hockey 2012 Agency, who is a player agent out of Manitoba. I think he's going to be filling in for us this next week in place of Tom. So, Daryl, if you're just getting news of this, I think I have you set. So hopefully you can change your schedule because you call from the rink, man. You travel the world, go everywhere. So, but guys, you're going to hear some great stories he's got on hockey. And let's just say, Daryl calls it as he sees it. For those that like that, you're going to love Daryl on our show next week, as I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get him on. All right, man. Any last thought?
No, it's been a rig-a-ding dandy kind of show, right? As you like to say. We appreciate all the support. Thank you for following us, tuning in. We appreciate all your fans from all around the world, talking, chatting, sharing hockey. I'm excited the regular season begins next week, so we've got lots to talk about, a lot of storylines to follow. Yeah, another great episode, so thank you.
All right, man. Well, Pavel, everybody at Two Guys in Hockey Talk in Season 5, I want to say in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe.
Cheers. Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
We'll be
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.